Kendra, and I think I'm first up on our vlog buddy read. So we are reading Maggie O'Farrell's This Must Be the Place, and I'm actually at the beach, and it is like our second day here, and it has been raining all day. Perfect reading day, but that is why we are all hunkered down in blankets and jackets and things instead of sunning ourselves at the beach. What you hear is Dylan, who just heard me start talking and of course brings his toy over. But this is what we're reading. This is the first day, so I'm going to be taking you along on my first part of the journey here of reading this book, so I'm really excited. So this book is about a guy named Daniel who's living in Ireland with his wife. There are a lot of POV characters in this book, and it jumps around a lot, but he's kind of the main character, and we see his life and parts of his life and parts of his past and his parents' past. And I feel like this is a portrait of a person from different perspectives. This is actually a reread for me. I really love this book, so I'm reading it again because it is wonderful, but I have forgotten a lot, so I'm excited to remember what's going on with the book. But we start with Daniel in Ireland, and he decides he's going to go back home to, I think, around New York for his father's funeral, or maybe his dad is about to pass away. I can't remember. I guess we'll find out together. Are back home, and I've finished the first half of This Must Be the Place, and this time around I've been really impressed with Maggie O'Farrell's structure. So I outlined the book because I'm a nerd, and I went and did like the viewpoint character, and I realized that she only uses first person when we're in the head of Daniel, and he's the most consistent narrator. But then there are also timelines, like this like past timeline with Claudette and with Daniel, and just how their lives intersect. I don't know, it's just really good, and I love being able to look at just all of their stories. I don't know, I just don't have words, because Maggie O'Farrell has this way of getting into a character's head, and even though these are like almost like a bunch of short stories, not quite, she is able to communicate who this person is. And she creates these round characters in such a short amount of time, and I have no idea how she does it. And so I look at a paragraph, and you learn so much about a character in that single paragraph, and you're just blown away. Her prose is fantastic, and she also has a lot of random information. We look at what's it like to have a child with eczema, Daniel the linguist, Claudette's in the movies. We get a lot of different jobs and professions, just random details that I'm like, how do you know all of this? But now that I've read her memoir, I actually do know a lot of it comes from her own life. So I won't spoil that, what all those things are for you, but you should definitely go check that out because, anyway, so that's the first half. I'll be back later in the next vlog to tell you about the second half. But yeah, I just love it so much. Next up on our vlog is Leah, and so Leah, I have a question for you. What do you think of the nonlinear structure of this book, which is one of my favorite parts, but I'm very interested to see, as you as a first-time reader, what you think about it. So let me know. Look forward to hearing about it.
So our house looks like a war zone because we are renovating, but this is Bobba on his bed, and he has a new bed, but no, he likes his old bed. And not just does he have a new bed, he also has a lovely kennel that my father and son made together, but no, Bobba likes to sit on this ratty bed. Yes, and then there's Lou. Hey Lou! Renovation backyard. Hey Lou! Now this is my Lou. Hey, come here! This is Lou. Now he is an Australian Kelpie. Sit down! And good boy. He's a beautiful. Hello, hello, beautiful. Alright, enough puppy talk. It's all good is just going to become my new booktube motto because I'm running late. But it's all good. So sorry, guys. I really dropped the ball on this one. I am loving this book. This is my first Maggie O'Farrell book. And Kendra, if you don't mind, I'm going to so invite myself into your buddy read with you and Jen from Insert Literary Pun here, because I'm picking up another Maggie O'Farrell as soon as possible and I want to talk about it again. Now, the first lesson I learned from this buddy read is don't do a buddy read with a library book, because instead of just scribbling all over my book, as I do, I know, sacrilegious, I have 95 million post-it notes. But oh my goodness, I am loving this book. It's my first O'Farrell and definitely not my last. As you were saying, Kendra, I'm really enjoying how the story keeps going, revolving almost around Daniel, and how at this point in the book, we don't know what that particular decision, that event that causes the whole story to focus around him is. It's almost as if there's one defining moment in his life that he can't answer, he can't resolve just yet. And I think that is what's driving the future, the current and the past tense throughout the different stories. And I think that's echoing the decision his mother made as well earlier when she met that man with the young boy. I don't want to go into too many spoilers and that lost love, but the mother regretting a decision, or a decision that could have changed her life, and how perhaps Daniel has a decision or an event in his life that could have turned his life in a different direction. So I'm finding that to be really interesting. What I'm finding most interesting, and Shawn, I think I'd like you to discuss definitely, because I think this is right up your street. Daniel is a New Yorker. Daniel is also a linguist, and yet he's transplanted to Ireland. And I love how his language in particular, but not just his language, Ari, the son as well, his language also is quite pretentious, quite over the top, yet not in an overwritten, unattainable way. It is just this wordsmithy way, and how different tones, like he's an American, but he's using perhaps British language in a British sense, and it's all getting vice versa. And I'm finding that to be very interesting. I want to see what's going on next, because I'm sort of compelling and fighting my way through this. I'm almost finished the second half, but I'm going to wait for the rest of your vlogs to see where the discussion goes, because I couldn't wait stopping at halfway. I really just needed to keep reading on this one, so I'm just a bit over halfway at this point. But wow, what a great book choice. I'm glad we are doing this. And so yes, I think back to Kendra's question, the tense, the past tense and the present tense is relating to that pivotal moment in Daniel's life, which we don't know yet. And I think that's really, really interesting, that one point that perhaps changed his whole destiny. And the question I'm asking going forward is, how is the language driven by the characters, or are the characters actually that pretentious and we're not noticing it? Is it the language driving it? That question is really wordy. But thanks, guys. I'm really enjoying this.
Hello BookTube, I'm Shawn the Book Maniac, and welcome back to my channel and Kendra's channel and Leah's channel. So here I am with my 2 cents worth on This Must Be the Place by Maggie O'Farrell. I think it's just wonderful. I'm really enjoying it, and I love Maggie O'Farrell. I've read one of her earlier novels, The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox. Loved it. And just a few months ago on audio I did her memoir, I Am. Now I'm halfway through This Must Be the Place, which is her most recent novel, I believe 2016. So let me start with Leah's question about the language of the main character, Daniel. He is a linguistics professor, and he's done some kind of speech pathology in the past. Oh, gotta open my coffee, which you saw me buy. Doesn't it match the flowers behind me? It's a very interesting question Leah poses. He uses his academic jargon when it's appropriate to what he's seeing or experiencing or whatever, but other than that, I don't find that it really crops into his speech. That's my very quick answer to that. What I notice more about Daniel's speech or Daniel's character, Daniel's point of view, is he's kind of a smart aleck. I don't really like him, and I know I'm not allowed to ask questions out of turn, but Leah, does he kind of give you any vibes of the protagonist of The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes? Doesn't he kind of remind you, or is it just me? So I don't really like Daniel. Maybe I'm not meant to, but it's not affecting my enjoyment of the novel so far, except maybe I'll get to that at the very end. But language is really silly to say language is a main character of the novel, but it almost is. Maggie O'Farrell's not a wonderful prose stylist. It's very rare for me to find a sentence that jumps up off the page that I would think is quote out of context. She's not a prose stylist. She's a very good writer, but she's a masterful storyteller and a plotter, and I know Kendra's talked about that, and we're probably going to be discussing that more in the second half. So, no, I love her, but I don't think she's a wonderful writer on the sentence level. But what she has embedded deeply into this novel is language and communication. The whole plot turns on that. I'm thinking about scenes such as a girl playing under the table while her grandma and uncle converse in another language, and she knows the language, but she doesn't understand it, but she's still able to catch the phrase and mention it to her mother, and it causes this huge scene in the family. And those kind of things are threaded throughout. Communications that go astray, letters that don't reach their sender, and it happens to be Daniel so far in both cases, that the plot really turns on that. I did find that a little bit gimmicky in certain places, and so I'll just say that by the end, Daniel meets an old school buddy, and he finds out that something that he thought it happened one way didn't happen that way at all. I'm not going to say any more, but that seemed a bit hokey to me. Those things can happen in real life, but to that degree, that seemed a little melodramatic, but just a little bit too much. I'm willing to bet money that for me it won't feel so hokey by the time I finish the novel, but where the first half of this novel ended, I thought, really? So, I'm really enjoying it. This quote from Daniel, that's not a spoiler, but it is a nice piece of writing. He says, "My life has been a series of elisions, cover-ups, dropped stitches in knitting. To all appearances, I am a husband, a father, a teacher, a citizen. But when tilted towards the light, I become a deserter, a sham, a killer, a thief. On the surface, I am one thing, but underneath, I am riddled with holes and caverns, like a limestone landscape." You could use that as kind of a précis of what's going on thematically in the book. And my question for Kendra is, what do you think of the titles? The titles, I think, are quite enigmatic. As you and I discussed on Voxer, they are taken usually right from the chapter headings, but they're not normal titles, are they? And also the title of the book, which I guess we were going to get to early in the second half of the book. I did do a little text search on Kindle to find out where the first occurrence of that is, and it seems like it's going to be early in the second half. So any comment on the title? I guess I would preface my question. The title of this book is This Must Be the Place, and I understand because there's one particular location in the story that is, as Kendra told me on Voxer, and I agree with her, it is the heart of the story. But if you break that title down, that is a statement that one would make, that when they newly realize that a place that seems foreign to them actually starts to make sense, it's the place that they've been looking for. And to me, Maggie O'Farrell has constructed this novel to give the reader experiences of that. it's a wonderfully convoluted structure. But as a reader, I frequently felt like I don't know what's going on, and then suddenly, because of the way it's so intricately done, oh, this must be, oh, this is what's going on, oh, this is who this is, oh, this is what's going on. And she does that really well. I think the title is genius for that reason. Kendra, if you have any comments on that title and any of the other titles, I would be interested. I have been nattering on too long, so I'm looking forward to part 2, maybe next week. Thanks for watching. Japanese antique store. I've done a vlog on this already a few months ago. You never get too much of this store. That jewelry box. Those jewelry boxes are only about $30 here. 120 bucks. It's gorgeous. That one's $22. And the workmen that repair the furniture and shine it all up are usually pretty cute. Let's see. Yes. Oh my. Is this illegal? That doesn't look very comfortable, but I like looking at it. 3 floors of this. Is that a fishing something? Okay, I gotta go, but I'll bring you back here again a few more times. See, there's another cute workman. One of the 3 ain't bad. Oh, 2 out of 4. All right, let's go.